My mom kicked me out for her new family, then demanded college money for my siblings after my success.
Growing up, my mom and I had what I thought was a decent relationship. My dad passed away when I was a baby, and it was just the two of us for a long time. Things were tough, but we made it through together. Or so I thought. When I was 16, my mom met John, and everything changed. At first, I was happy for her. She deserved to find someone who made her happy. But once they got married, it became painfully clear that I was no longer her priority. John had 2 younger kids, and from the moment they moved in, I started feeling like an outsider in my own home. The final straw came when I turned 18. Just after my high school graduation, my mom sat me down for a talk. She told me that now that I was an adult, I needed to move out because there just wasn't enough room with John and his kids around. I was blindsided. I had no job lined up, no savings, and nowhere to go. When I asked why John's kids couldn't share a room to make space, she snapped and said, "They're younger and they need stability. You're old enough to figure things out on your own." So I left. For the first few months, I couch surfed with friends and worked odd jobs to make ends meet. It was humiliating, but I refused to give up. Eventually, I managed to get a scholarship and work-study program that allowed me to attend college. It wasn't easy. I worked part-time jobs, skipped meals, and pulled all-nighters, but I made it through. After graduating, I landed a good job in tech and started building a life I could finally be proud of. For years, I had little contact with my mom. She never called to check in, and I stopped trying after realizing how one-sided our relationship had become. Then, out of the blue, she called me last month. At first, I thought she might be trying to reconnect, but after some small talk, she got to the real reason for her call. "Your siblings are getting ready for college, and we were hoping you could help out with their tuition." I was stunned. This was the first time I'd heard from her in years, and now she wanted money for John's kids. The same ones I was kicked out for? I told her I wasn't in a position to help, but she wouldn't let it go. "You're doing so well now," she said. "It's only fair that you give back to the family that raised you." I lost it. Family that raised me? You mean the family that kicked me out when I needed you most? The family that replaced me with strangers? She got defensive, saying she had no choice back then and that I should be more understanding. When I refused again, she started guilt-tripping me, saying how much my siblings looked up to me and how disappointed they'd be if I didn't support them. I told her I wished them well, but that I wasn't responsible for their education. I reminded her that I built my success on my own without any help from her, and that it wasn't my job to clean up her messes. She hung up on me, calling me selfish and ungrateful. Since then, I've been getting messages from her and even from John, accusing me of turning my back on family and forgetting where I came from. It hurts to be painted as the villain, but I know I did the right thing by setting boundaries. I've started therapy to unpack all the feelings I've been suppressing for years. It's not easy, but it's helping me realize that I'm not obligated to sacrifice my hard-earned success for people who abandoned me when I needed them most. Update. It's been a few months since my mom's out-of-the-blue demand that I pay for John's kids' college tuition, and things have only gotten messy. After I refused, I thought she might back off. I was wrong. The guilt-tripping didn't stop. In fact, it escalated. My mom started calling every few days, leaving long, emotional voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart. She painted me as the selfish one who abandoned them, conveniently forgetting that she was the one who kicked me out in the first place. Then came the ultimate betrayal. She reached out to extended family, spinning the story in her favor. She told them I was refusing to help the family, despite being successful, framing it like I owed her and my step-siblings for raising me. Some relatives bought her story and started bombarding me with messages, saying I should be grateful for everything my mom did for me. One aunt even had the audacity to say, "You wouldn't be where you are without your mom's sacrifices. The least you can do is give back." I wanted to scream. Where were all these people when I was couch surfing and struggling to afford food after being kicked out? Still, I tried to stay calm. I responded to a few relatives with the truth, that my mom kicked me out at 18 for her new family and hadn't been involved in my life since. I explained that I'd worked my way up from nothing and that the money they were demanding wasn't something I owed anyone. Some understood, but others doubled down, calling me heartless. But the worst came when John himself decided to get involved. He sent me a long, condescending message about how he'd always tried to welcome me into their family, a blatant lie, and how my refusal to help his kids was proof that I'd never considered them real family. He even threatened with legal action. He claimed that, as my guardian for a few years, he was entitled to financial support now that I was successful. I couldn't believe the nerve. I immediately forwarded the email to a lawyer friend, who assured me the claim was laughable and wouldn't hold up in court. Still, the sheer audacity left me fuming. Meanwhile, I started to notice a pattern. Every time my mom or John would try to guilt trip or threaten me, Emma, John's eldest, would send me a quiet message on the side. She'd apologize for her parents' behavior and thank me for not holding it against her and her brother. I'll admit, I was wary at first, but over time, I realized Emma was genuine. She opened up about how hard things had been for her growing up in such a controlling household, especially with John's obsession with appearances and my mom's tendency to go along with whatever he wanted. One day, Emma said something that stuck with me. "You're the only one who ever stood up to him. I wish I could do that." It made me wonder if my mom and John's obsession with my success wasn't just about money. It was about control. They'd lost their hold over me when I walked away, and now they couldn't stand seeing me thrive on my own. But as I started to find closure, they made one last desperate move. A week ago, I got a letter in the mail. It wasn't handwritten. It was typed and formal, like something you'd get from a lawyer. My heart sank as I opened it, wondering if John was actually trying to sue me. Instead, it was a demand letter from my mom. She outlined a proposal for me to contribute a specific amount to her stepkids' college funds, an amount so absurdly high it made me laugh out loud. At the bottom, she'd scrawled a note in her own handwriting. "This is your last chance to prove you care about your family. If you refuse, don't bother calling us when you need help one day." That was the moment I realized I was done. I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked her number and emails, along with John's and the relatives who kept harassing me. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief as I hit that block button. It was like closing a door I should have shut years ago. As for Emma, I made it clear that I wasn't holding her responsible for her parents' actions, and she thanked me for being understanding. She even said she hoped to move out soon and live her own life, free from her dad's influence. Now, I'm focusing on myself. I've worked too hard to let guilt or manipulation derail the life I've built. My success is mine, and I won't let anyone take that away. Final update. After months of emotional drama and manipulation, I finally reached a place of closure, and I wanted to share how it all ended. After I blocked my mom, John, and the relentless relatives who sided with them, I felt like a weight had been lifted. For the first time in years, I could focus on myself without the constant noise of the demands and guilt trips. But even as I tried to move forward, a small part of me wondered if this was really the end. That question was answered 2 weeks ago when I received an unexpected visitor, Emma, John's daughter. She showed up unannounced, visibly nervous but determined to talk. I invited her in, and over coffee, she opened up about what had been going on at home. Apparently, my mom and John hadn't taken my silence well. They'd been spiraling, complaining to anyone who would listen about how I'd betrayed the family. But Emma also revealed something I hadn't known. Their financial situation was far worse than they let on. John's business was struggling, and they had been banking on my supposed contribution to keep them afloat. Emma apologized on behalf of her family, saying she'd always admired how I'd stood up for myself. Then she dropped a bombshell. She was leaving. She'd saved up enough money from her part-time job to move out and was planning to cut ties with her dad and my mom. "I don't want to end up like them," she said. Hearing that broke my heart a little. Emma was only 19, and she was already carrying so much. But I admired her courage and offered to help in any way I could, not financially, but with advice and support as she started this new chapter. After Emma left, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness for her situation, but also relief that at least one person in that house wanted to break the cycle of toxicity. A week later, I got one final message from my mom. It was an email, and unlike her previous rants, this one was short and bitter. You've made your choice, and it's clear you want nothing to do with this family. Don't expect to be welcomed back when you realize you need us. Goodbye. I didn't respond. I didn't feel anger or sadness, just peace. Her words confirmed what I already knew. She was more concerned about control and appearances than about actually rebuilding a relationship with me. Since then, I've been focusing on myself and the people who genuinely care about me. I reconnected with some old friends and even started therapy again to process the lingering emotions. It's been a long journey, but I finally feel like I'm in control of my life. As for my mom and John, I don't know what will happen to them, and honestly, I've stopped worrying about it. Emma and I still talk occasionally, and I hope she finds happiness away from that toxic environment. If there's one thing this whole experience has taught me, it's that family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about love, respect, and mutual support. And sometimes, walking away from the people who are supposed to love you is the only way to truly find peace. To anyone out there dealing with toxic family dynamics, it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to choose yourself. You're not selfish for wanting a life free of manipulation and pain.